I will be revealing my secret from how I went from no money to a net worth of over 100,000 by age 23. Let's begin. My journey from no money to over 100,000 began during my teenage years when I was 13. It all started out online with a game called Habbo Hotel, where on the game I was able to basically go from no in-game virtual currency to cashing out real amounts of money from the secondary game market. Now, I have talked about this before in more detail in my video on how to make money online. I did all of the methods that I outlined in that video, which is selling the in-game currency for real life money, selling ebooks, being a gift card middleman, speculating on Bitcoin, taking advantage of free money called the KiwiSaver Kickstart grant, and reselling on Facebook Marketplace. All those things mean that by the time I turned 18, I was able to have a net worth of $5,000, with 2,000 of that being in KiwiSaver and about 3,000 in cash available for me to readily spend. But it was those things that I did during my teenage years which did give me a base for what I did from age 18 to get to my current position of a net worth of over 100,000 at age 23. All the things I did during my teenage years enabled me to do that, and luckily, since I lived with my parents, my living costs were subsidised, so to speak, or my parents paying for everything up until I was 18. In many respects, it was just a normal teenage childhood. Now, during my teenage years, I've never held a conventional job, a minimum wage job. I've never done anything like that, especially when I was growing up. So all the money that I made was all made online at home. I've never been geographically privileged or advantaged. I've never lived in a city or come from a place that had a lot of money. Everything I had to do was basically of my own doing and intuition. So I had to be very resourceful and put in time to do things to get to my position of 5,000 at age 18. Now at 18 I was in quite a different position from my teenage years and where I'm at now. Arguably that was the bottom in terms of my quality of life. At 18 I didn't have any privilege or advantages going for me at all. I'm not even remotely close to being to a university or an ability to get a tertiary education. 5,000 in net worth is not that much money in the grand scheme of things. And because I was living with my mum, we were basically on the brink of homelessness. So what ended up happening was that we moved in with our nana, and I would say that's when my quality of life, personally speaking, was at its worst. This isn't to say that we were in poverty or that we were going without, but the house we lived in was very cold. So everything was really uphill from that point on. When I was 18, given that there's no great deal of jobs in my town, I started to go quite big into reselling, starting with all the money that I had and just pouring everything into it and trying to double my money as quickly as possible. In large part this did work, but I thought that I could cheat the process and go even faster, so I tried to buy and resell a car, which didn't go well, and I would count that as a failure. But really from 2019, when I was 18, to about 2023, I was just doing the same thing, living with my mum, reselling, saving as much money as I could, but also I was paying a bit of bond, $100 a week, which isn't a real cost of living, but it did allow me the chance to just keep saving and saving and saving throughout those 4 years. People would say that I made some big sacrifices during those years, but I don't think I really did. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything because everyone was locked down because it was COVID years primarily. But also when you're not exposed to a lot and you don't have a lot materially, you don't know what you're actually missing out on, which was actually a good mindset hack for me. I had everything that I wanted in the small ways in terms of food and whatever, but we weren't going on holidays or buying expensive things. And reselling really was a big part of going from 5,000 to over 100. So my net worth driver and growth really did just come from reselling and buying as much inventory as possible and then selling it down. And today it still makes up a decent chunk of my net worth. In addition to reselling, I was also making voluntary contributions to my KiwiSaver for the tax credit you get for making contributions, which is $520 per year. I was practically all in on that business, minus my KiwiSaver, which is our retirement account system in New Zealand. From contributing $20 per week in order to get the $10 per week, an instant 50% return in my KiwiSaver, from age 18, I had a KiwiSaver balance of around $2,000, but by the time 2023 came around, it had grown to about 8 or 9,000, just from those contributions, believe it or not. But 2020 especially and onwards were fantastic years for investment growth, which is what KiwiSaver is, fundamentally just investments. Then from 2023 onwards, I decided to have a change of tack. I had a decent amount of money saved up, had a decent amount of money in KiwiSaver, but I still had quite a bit of reselling inventory. But I still decided to move from our small town all the way up to Auckland, which is our biggest city in the country. It has a population of about 1.5 million. And I decided to start flatting. Also decided to have a change of tune for the primary driver of my income, as New Zealand is in a recession, but had just entered one after the increase in interest rates in 2022. My reselling business had slowed down a fair bit. Also wanted to diversify my income streams away from just reselling primarily towards something more stable. It was in 2023, late 2023, that I began my second big side hustle after reselling, which is the rental of, I'm not going to say in this video, but constitutes quite a significant part of my net worth today. And it's the rental of products, but it's been a good form of diversification. And I feel like I only could have pulled it off coming up to Auckland, as it wouldn't have been able to source the product as easily in my previous town, or to get the products rented out. So in 2023, I'm reselling, I have a job, and I have that rental business as the three main things driving my income. All that at age 22. This is still my current phase that I'm in. Over time, I have been diversifying my net worth away from being primarily in inventory for my reselling business towards more cash and investment contributions. Some of the principles here is that I would say you have to be extremely frugal and make big sacrifices and do things that you don't necessarily want to do, and cut out things that other people might be doing. You have to look at all your advantages and disadvantages, and while I didn't have location and background and wealth on my side, I do have the ability to be quite resourceful and strategic. I do believe that going from 0 to 5,000 during my teenage years is just as difficult as taking 5,000 to 100,000. I also did very much go all in on reselling. I use it as the main driver of my net worth growth, and luckily it did work, but in a sense that was gambling and risking it all on one thing. I never felt that I was missing out on anything or that I was going without, but for some people that does bother them. This is what I had to do to get to this position that I am in. Spent a lot of time learning finance and understanding that you always have to keep your money working for you. I know at the baseline I can always grow at about 8 or 9% per year just being invested in the S&P 500. No matter what I do, that's always going to be my worst case outcome. That is the baseline. The next step for me is going to be going from 100,000 to $1 million. I do need to significantly improve my income in order to get there. It's just growing my money isn't going to be enough by itself. If I made no contributions and just let my money grow at 8 or 9% per year, in about 3 or 4 decades I would have $1 million. But what is $1 million going to be worth? What type of life would I have led in that 3 or 4 decades by the time I'm in my 60s with that money in my bank account? Over time I do want to be involved in real estate and have a decent investment fund sorted out for myself. In an upcoming video I'm going to outline my goals and what I want to achieve in my life. In a sense, my bucket list. Being able to change tactics and know what works at one point but might be starting to go soft at another point in time. You have to know when to adapt to these things, which I feel like I have done quite well throughout my journey so far. I am very proud of where I'm at today. I feel like I can have anything within reason and that I'm not missing out on anything anymore, and that my sacrifices and what I had to do to get here has been worth it. I'm in a lot better position than a lot of peers in my age who have debt and perhaps work low income jobs but also do not have the net worth that I do. I feel like I have a lot of flexibility in life and that I can never truly go backwards unless I absolutely stuff it up somehow.